Alrighty, folks, January 3rd, 2026. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first installment of Ronnie Rambles. So, this one, I just want to go over some spin sticks or spin sticks basics. I've been meaning to make this for a couple months already. A lot of new guys, I guess, have been hitting me up on basic spin stick questions. So, I figured I'd make a video and kind of lay it all out, and at least the basics of the spin stick stuff. To kind of reference instead of having to type everything all over again. But yeah, let's kind of get into it. So I guess first and foremost, there are caddies that are basically two static ends. They don't spin. They don't do much of anything. They just kind of hold your beads. Not something I'd be using, to be honest with you. I just have some Cheerios stacked up here. But that's one thing. So there are caddies that don't do much. And for spin sticks themselves, I put them in three categories, right? So this part, all of these makers, I guess most of the makers today are part of this first category. Then you have the modular guys on this side, and then we'll talk about, well, this is kind of in between, and then we'll talk about the Fidget boys and how they're a bit more different than the rest. So, all right, let's get into basics. So let's use this guy as a example. So this is the Breakfast Club Spinman. So for me, the things I look for most is the way it feels, the way it sounds, and modularity. Modularity being a bigger part. So the first two are kind of similar to what I look for in spinners, but spin sticks, I do want some modularity, which we'll get into. But the basic spin stick is typically like this, where you kind of want it to be balanced. This one is fairly balanced. This guy, so this is tungsten copper. And I do have the Axion in tungsten copper just to match. But this guy came with a tungsten copper top and a Zerk bottom. So it's completely unbalanced. This one is somewhat balanced now. I put two tungsten copper Cheerios on the bottom to balance it out. That's the closest I could get with what I have right now. But we'll get into, I guess, the makeup of a spin stick itself. So this only has 3 beads or so. Take this apart, put the beads aside, and this has a red screw. Fun fact, this costs an extra $100, apparently. But okay, so the basic of the spin stick, you have your spin cap, which is the whatever material it's made of. More than likely has a hole or a drill through that lets you access the bearing. And on the other side, it's basically just a 1/2-inch hole in which the bearing sits in. And it's held in with glue. On top of that, so the spin cap sits on the spin base, which is typically part of the shaft itself. The shaft will have both the spin base and the collar, which separates the spin cap from the beads itself, like so. And the last part is the actual base to keep the beads in place. So spin cap, shaft, and base are the 3 parts of a normal spin stick. So there's some pros and cons with a basic spin stick. More times than not, the shaft would have M6 threading. So the benefits of M6 threading is that it's thicker, so it's a bit stronger on the thread point, so you can't snap it as easily. Not sure if that happens a lot, but that's one pro. The other pro, the other pro is they typically have a longer thread than an M4, which would allow you to stack more beads and have a bit more wiggle room to adjust the length. This one's a bad example. Let's do... All right, so this is the Griffin Revo. This has a long thread. So if you see here, the threading ends right there, and I could still stack another spacer that goes into the threading, and I still have a good amount of threading left to kind of cinch it all up. So that's the benefits of the M6. The downside to M6 threading is that you can't really pick up any extenders, right? So you can't really pick up an M6 threaded 6mm extender because the threading itself is already 6mm, and having the shaft itself 6mm as well, there won't be a female side for it to screw into. So you're kind of stuck with the size of the shaft that was shipped to you from the maker, along with the collar and the spin base. So all this is together. So there are ways to kind of take a non-modular and make it modular, but we'll get into that in a different video. So put this away. So $100 screw. Got races going outside. Apologies for that. So most makers are part of this first section. You got Sasa, you have Griffin, although Griffin has a V2 that uses M4, so we'll get into that. There's also Griffin, BFC, BBD. This one is Umbery, which is one of my more suggested cheaper sticks for people trying to get into the spin stick scene. For $65 on aluminum, you can't beat that. This one is Swanky, and then this one is the Gauze Hexa Mace. I'll get into ergonomics a bit later, but so let's go into the modular guys. So the reason why I say modular is that these guys use M4 threading. That's literally all it is. The basic makeup is similar. So this one is by Sipit. This is the Sipit Cyclone. All right. Pretty new to me. I got these pieces yesterday. So this is the Cyclone head itself. You have a M4 threaded screw going all the way through the spin cap and base. So the base itself is separate from the shaft. That's big plus. So now you could keep the spin cap with its matching spin base when you move it on to, let's say, so a different M4 shaft. You could pop this one on if I wanted this length, or if I want to run a solo bead, I could do this. Okay. Do I have, oh, here it is. So this is the actual base that usually goes onto it. So you can make it super short, you can make it super long if you wanted to. So that's the benefit of the makers using M4. Makeup itself is still similar. So you have the drill through top to act as the bearing. You have the M4 screw that goes directly into the base itself. But in this case, the base is separate from the shaft, so you can move the base and the spin cap to any length shaft that you want. And the stick base as well is also M4 threaded, so that makes things a lot easier as well. So this entire set can go together if you wanted to, or if you want to ultra compact, you got the nubby stick right here. So that's the benefit of having an M4 kind of setup. I'm hoping more makers start moving towards M4. It will make things a lot easier. I've spoken to one or two other stick makers and somewhat, I think, sorta convinced them. So this is from Metamorphosis. It's a dual spin head. So this guy is a bit ahead of the curve where you can actually take off the spin base and the cap, but the threading on this one is M5. So there are ways to adapt this as well, which we'll go into in a different video. But M4 is the way, as far as I'm concerned, at least. Oh, so, for example, if I wanted to shorten it, so instead of using this M4 female to female, I would leave this out. There's a male sticking out. I could then take the old base, pop this on, and now I'm back to a single stick, or a single spin head with a base, instead of my dual. Take this off. But yeah, I think the shaft length is a big one, especially when you're new. When you're first getting into spin sticks, you don't have the amount of beads available to you, at least not right away, unless you go out and buy just bulks of them. And, you know, people like their stuff matching, right? So if you don't have like a full WCU stack and you're missing, let's say, one of these beads, it's nice to just adjust the shaft length to the number of beads that you have. So it's a well-matched set, basically. So let's talk about LC Creations. So LC Creations is the same as these guys. It's modular in the sense that it's M4, but it does take it up a notch where the base has this retention piece to hold in the bearing. So this is cool now that you don't have to... Is it loose enough? No, it's definitely not loose. And I'm not sure where the tool is. So you do have to use tweezers to kind of open this guy up, but the bearing sits inside without any glue, which is pretty nice. But again, it's at least modular, so that's a bonus there. Oh, and I did want to bring up the base. So the base has a recess where the M4 shaft kind of fits into, basically allowing you a bit more wiggle room when you're adjusting your stack. That's a pretty nice touch. But again, I'm not a fan of the way the retention works on this guy, but at least it's modular. The modular part is the big part for me, at least. Still loose. Cinch it up. There you go. Back together. So I do like double or dual-headed spin caps, mainly because the plan was to run two different types of bearings. Everybody knows that I love Golden Eagles. They're super rowdy, super noisy. This one has a Golden Eagle, and I forgot what the other one is. It's a bit quieter. I think it might be MHTs from SpinFam. So now let's go to Fidget Boy. So the reason why I love the Fidget Boy design, and I emphasize design, is because there is actual design done into the spin cap. So just like everything else, it's M4, or at least just like the modular guys here, it's completely M4. But as I said about the LC Creations one, this one has a retention cap, but the way that he implements the retention cap is amazing. So as you see, it's M4, base comes apart along with the spin cap, but the way the spin cap is designed, it's three pieces. So you have your base, you have your body, and you have the top itself. So the top pinches the bearing along the sides. So the best part about the top is, if you see where the stainless steel ends up here, and then compare that to the length of the top itself, this entire piece is filled in with stainless steel. So all of this weight is part of the spinning mass on the spin cap itself. I believe the more mass on anything spinning is better. So this is an absolutely great design. Unfortunately, I don't think we could expect this to come out in tungsten. Definitely not tungsten. Highly doubtful tungsten copper. There might be a Zirc coming out, supposedly. I'm not sure. But I do wish there were other metals for this guy. I have this one in. All these are stainless. I have the brass, I have the copper, and I actually have the titanium coming in now, just to have. But you just take out the screw itself. So you see the bearing, no longer with the screw. Oh. And it pops right out. So for me, the best part about this is that I was able to switch out different bearings as I got the Fidget Boy fairly early into me getting into spin sticks. So I was messing around with different bearings and stuff, and it was so much nicer just being able to unscrew the top cap of this guy and swapping out bearings than having to fiddle with different tools and stuff for all of these other guys that have glue in them. But in the next video, I'll show you how to easily take out glued-in bearings with just a longer M4 screw and the cup from your bearing tool. Pop this here. Pop this here. Yeah. So this is still one of my favorites. So you got the gorgeous golden eagles in this one. This one has this one has brawlers. I can tell because it's silent when you hold it upright, but then it gets rowdy when you hold it to the side. And this is the Euphorias by Play for Beans. Also, keep in mind, just like your spinners, the material that you put on the body. So this one is all tungsten, and this has golden eagles. A completely different sound than the first one. The more dense of a material on your body, the more muffled the sound will be. All right. That's about it for the basics on the spin sticks. I'll do another video and get into like different accessories and stuff and how to customize it. Basically taking a non-modular stick and making it modular while retaining the spin cap and the base that matches. So like these two are kind of from the same material, or are from the same material, and you want to kind of keep the cap and the base itself together. So we could get into that. And we could get into like DIY stuff on making your own. For example, this guy is actually 2 spinners into a spin stick. All right. Hey guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll be happy to answer. Thanks.